For early access plus exclusive content, facilitated discussions, live one-on-one Q&As, and more, become a patron at patreon.com/BrucePointset. Welcome to Some Shit I Read. I'm your host, Bruce Pointset, and you're probably wondering, some shit I read, what is this? Well, first off, it's a little play on old common song, Some Shit I Wrote. And also it's my entry into the quote unquote booktube. My partner put me on to the idea or the space on YouTube, and like a lot of similar spaces, I kind of had that perception of, oh, it's a white dominated space. I enjoy books, but not sure if I'm going to enjoy being here. And she put me on to this channel, Read with Cindy, where you know it's just fun, fun with books, and just you know getting it in with books. So I decided, why not? I enjoy reading. I enjoy sharing some of the knowledge I get from the different things I read. Let's put a container around it. So, how the series is going to go, I'm going to, instead of giving you, just a book report, basically, I'm going to share, little select passages from things that have kind of touched me over time, and tell you a little bit about why I mess with particular books and what we can take away in our lives and in our movements. So, with that, welcome to Some Shit I Read. And today we're going to be talking Contagious by Jonah Berger. So I came across Contagious, like many people, actually through Nipsey Hussle, the late, great Nipsey Hussle, back around the time when he was putting out the Crenshaw mixtape, which many will remember he was selling for $100. He's also letting you download them for free, but he had a site called proudtopay.com where you could buy it for $100 and you get passes to a concert and these other perks as well. But again, it's just the idea of proud to pay. So he actually got the idea though from the book Contagious by Jonah Berger, and specifically part of the book where Berger talks about $100 Philly cheesesteak. And basically, the idea was it's sort of a marketing technique. Part of it is building the intrigue around it of, if you hear about they're selling a cheesesteak for $100, why is it so special? And but the other part is also making it more exclusive, making it a status thing. So the fact that you can say, hey, yeah, I can afford a $100 cheesesteak. I'm living the life of luxury. Basically, again, these things were, marketing techniques, excuse me, that really, you know, made this product just, you know, became a news story. So, hearing about that, hearing Nipsey talking about that, and, it just got me, got my mind thinking, like, I got to check out this book. So, I did its job. And sure enough, you know, there were a bunch of gems in there. So here's one I want to share with you. So in Contagious, Berger used a thing called the steps chart, which I'm going to share with you now. So as you can see, steps, it's a acronym, or STEPPS. So the first one is social currency, then triggers, then emotion, public, practical value, and stories. So I'll just go through each one for you. So social currency, i.e., does talking about your product or idea make people look good? Can you find the inner marketability or remarkability, excuse me, leverage game mechanics, make people feel like insiders. Then there's triggers. Consider the context. What cues make people think about your product or idea? How can you grow the habitat and make it come to mind more often? Next is emotion. Focus on feelings. Does talking about your product or idea generate emotion? How can you kindle the fire? Then there's public. Does your product or idea advertise itself? Can people see when others are using it? If not, how can you make the private public? Can you create behavioral residue that sticks around even after people use it? Next is practical value. Does talking about your product or idea help people help others? How can you highlight incredible value, packaging your knowledge and expertise into useful information others will want to disseminate? And then finally, there's stories. What is your Trojan horse? Is your product or idea embedded in a broader narrative that people want to share? Is the story not only viral, but also valuable? And those are steps. So essentially, these are devices for appealing to someone's subconscious. So you want to make an idea or product actually stick with them. And I'll let you know that if you break down ads, you break down marketing campaigns, you're going to find these everywhere. Which brings it back to me. I am in the business of storytelling. I'm a writer, I work, whether it's doing PR, whether it's doing speeches, writing articles. I always find myself using one or often multiple things from the steps chart. It's basically, think about it as a way of making ideas more palatable for others, as basically making the hard to understand easier to understand. For example, I do anti racism organizing in Lake Oswego, Oregon, which is also infamously known as Lake No Negro, Oregon. So let's use that as a case study for. So, as you can imagine, trying to make anti racism pop in a place like LO requires some marketing. Let's go through just a few examples of what, applying the marketing strategy through Respond looks like if we look at the step chart or the steps chart. So, first off, social currency. Well, in that case, no one wants to be labeled a racist. Even, you see it today. You see people who are proudly Nazis, proudly white supremacists. They get offended if you call them a racist for some reason. Even in a place like LO, this can become a source of status if you are, known as the not racist person. And while it's shallow on many people's parts, the advantage comes from the fact that people like easy signifiers. So creating organizations allows these people to say, I'm with the good guys. See, I go to RTR meetings. Now, I personally am, you can tell I get a little annoyed with that. But while it is a shallow thing, there's also the organizer in me that says, so how do we make use of that? And, that's the thing is once you get in, even if it's still shallow, if you can get someone in, then you go through the process of, just tapping into some of that competitive nature, even some of that, shallow status climbing, where once you're in there, you're trying to be better. And you're going to have someone, probably like me, reminding you of just how deep this white supremacy thing goes. Going to remind you, you know, how to be a better anti racist, not a not racist, but an anti racist. And you're going to have some internal and external motivation to keep stepping your game up or step your game up. And while, I'm personally not a fan of PTA politics, That doesn't mean I don't know how to play the game to, elevate the work. So let's look at triggers. Well, in the case of a place, once again, nicknamed Lake No Negro, racism is all around you. It's in the atmosphere. You see racist graffiti all the time. You have, you know, whether it's political signs for certain candidates, you have, you know, certain public statements. You get a lot of that I support the guy that supports white supremacy, even if I don't say it directly energy. It's all there. Even the people who, they love DEI, the grifters who love DEI, I should say, when they get on stage and they very transparently tell you, hey, I'm only here because this is, helping build my status. Even just the bad taste that gives you, like, it's all there, and it's constantly bugging and annoying people, which, as far as, again, working on triggers, means you don't have to convince people that there's a problem, basically, when the problem can't hide itself. In a similar vein, that's how you can also use something like emotion. So I'll tell you something. White people in Lake Oswego hate the nickname Lake No Negro with a passion. Like, you see, if you say it in a meeting, they just get viscerally uncomfortable. It's actually kind of hilarious. It's almost as if they hate being reminded of the reality of this town. But there's something there. If, as someone who's a veteran of telling my horror stories only to watch them essentially wash over someone as meetings end, I've noticed that this whole Lake No Negro thing and the desire to not have to hear that nickname anymore, it seems to stick and really move people a lot more. So again, while this is shallow, sometimes you got to use it to your advantage. And that means making sure to remind people whenever you get the chance, poke and prod them with the realities of this town. Specifically, you have a nickname that causes a visceral reaction that evokes white fragility, that makes people, angry and actually want to do something. Use it, say it, and keep on not just poking and prodding with the name, but following it with actual, ideas and action steps that you can use to, educate the community to actually get resources to deal or to create a more anti-racist atmosphere, to get resources that actually serve communities of color if they really are serious about getting rid of this Lake No Negro name. Then, you know actually put some pressure on people. And if all you got to do to put pressure on people is to literally say the name, seems simple enough to me. So now, what about the public aspect? So I'm going to just, again, you can look at the t-shirt. Is one thing sometimes just simply creating products so that you don't have to necessarily speak yourself. You just walk around and you see the stool or you see RTR on something, specifically in this case in t-shirts, you see that around town. Again, that builds the brand without having to do a bunch of extra work. It's just you're a walking billboard. So now let's talk about practical value. Anyone familiar with, you know, DI talking points knows that this stuff actually makes people money. Like, there are more than enough studies that show when you have more diverse workforces that they perform better. And it shouldn't be a surprise when when you increase the pool of ideas you have to work with, specifically with a diversity of experiences and backgrounds and just ways of problem solving. Yeah, you give yourself more of an opportunity to actually solve the issues you're dealing with, to again have just a diverse array of tools around you, you know, through a team of diverse people, not just the quote unquote a diversity of ideas of all white men, but actually people with different life experiences and stories. So again, you give yourself also, actually, in addition to being able to problem solve, what you also do is a little bit of insurance, because in these homogenous spaces, particularly in these homogenous, usually straight white male spaces, you get a lot of situations that, where it's a workplace discrimination, workplace harassment, and just a lot of risks for being sued, for having legal action come against you because, or come against your employer because there was no accountability in place. And then, when someone else came in and they were mistreated, they wanted to do something about it. So you want to head that off, have a workplace where you have diverse people who are actually empowered to be their full selves. Again, if you're not in it for, even if you're not in it for the morals, or you don't really care about people, I found that once you appeal to their pockets and you appeal to their fear of being sued, they become receptive. And lastly, the aspect of stories. So, I do a narrative and media facilitated discussion, which, if you want to get video of that or be a part of future ones, subscribe to the Patreon, which was linked in the intro and in the description as well. But, anyways, I don't lose sight of the fact that what we're doing does fit into some classic narratives. For example, there is a common story is the quest, the ability to, rise to the throne, rise to, you know, go through this journey to achieve a goal. In this case, what's what is a bigger quest than trying to end racism, to stop racism, to even, you know, just take it down a few notches? How many years, decades, generations have people been fighting this? So that's one way. Again, get people involved in the quest, get people to be a part of this quest to do something special and needed and necessary. Then there's also, the underdog story. And we look at, Lake Oswego, you're talking about not just Black people, but let's just take it Black people fighting for power and making a place for ourselves in a town literally nicknamed Lake No Negro. Can you think of more of an underdog story? Sure. But it sounds like quite the underdog story to me. And with that, I conclude episode 1 of Some Shit I Read. Please like, share, and subscribe. And I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Have you read Contagious? What was a part that stuck with you the most? Do you use the steps chart in your work? Let me know. In the meantime, I'll check you out on the next video. Take it easy. Thank you for watching. Please like and share and subscribe so you can stay up to date on all of the latest videos. Thank you.